The person my dad is having an affair with is my girlfriend. Son, you need to go with mom right now to the Lakeview Hotel. Your dad is over there having fun with that little tramp. My mind raced through 1,000 thoughts. Although my dad had married into my maternal family, his relationship with my mom had always been good. Over the years, my mom even handed the company over to him to manage. I stormed over to room 1102 and kicked open the door. Sure enough, my dad was in the middle of something. You guys, why are you here? My dad frantically tried to cover himself with his clothes. Mom slapped him hard several times. You told me you were working overtime, but you're here having fun. Who's that woman? Mom was frantically pulling at the blanket, and my dad immediately rushed over to stop her. I quickly went to help her. She broke free from my dad's grasp and pulled at the blanket with all her might. Bitch, still hiding under the blanket. I'm posting this online to see if anyone will still look at you with respect. My dad tried to protect the woman under the blanket. Crazy woman, get the hell out. Mom yanked the blanket away, but the next moment, she stepped back in shock. How are you here? Cheru. I froze. My beloved girlfriend was lying there. She held the blanket over herself and trembling, said, Auntie. My mind felt like it had been struck by lightning. Lynn Cheru was my girlfriend, and we were already talking about marriage. Why are you doing this to me? I nearly screamed, my eyes bloodshot as if they might bleed. Jusha-chan, you even went after Xiao Hao's girlfriend. You're a beast. My mom, exhausted from slapping and yelling at my dad, turned on Cheru. I treated you like my own daughter, and this is how you repay me. By being the other woman. Do you even feel guilty about what you're doing? How could you betray me like this? Mom was so worked up, her blood pressure spiked, and she fainted. I rushed her to the hospital. Mom wasn't seriously hurt, and after a little rest at the hospital, she was fine. When we returned home, I saw my dad packing his things. Mom immediately ran over to slap him. You old bastard, I was blind to marry you. Dad shoved her away. Don't touch me. Have you looked at yourself? You're just like a fat pig now. In my memory, my dad had always been doting and submissive to my mom, but now he was acting completely different. Get lost. Don't ever come back. You think I want to come back? I've been living under your roof for 20 years, suffering from your endless gossip. You think I care about this meal? He slammed the door behind him, dragging his suitcase out. After settling my mom, I started texting Cheru. I needed an explanation. I met Cheru at a coffee shop, and I fell for her instantly. I had treated her with utmost care, but now she had betrayed me. I texted her, aren't you going to explain what happened today? I saw the typing indicator on WeChat blink on and off, but she never replied. I felt like I had swallowed a fly. My girlfriend and my dad had been together. This was explosive. Somehow, the news of me being cheated on spread through my friend's circle. It was so embarrassing. The next day, while I was shopping in the mall, I happened to bump into my dad and my girlfriend together. Dad was following Cheru, carrying bags for her. Cheru, who used to look innocent and pure, was now dressed like a rich woman. I was furious. I stormed up and grabbed Cheru's hand. Aren't you going to explain? Do I deserve to be treated like this? Xiao Hao, let go. Dad's going to introduce you to a new girlfriend. Dad quickly tried to stop me, but Cheru interrupted him. She sweetly said to my dad, Darling, go wait in the car for me. I'll just talk to him for a minute. Dad walked away, glaring at me with a look that warned me not to hurt Cheru. This is the truth, and I don't have anything to explain, she said. Why? Didn't I treat you well? It's simple. Your dad can give me more. I could barely believe what I was hearing. I never knew you were this kind of person. This was always a transaction. I'm telling you everything now. Your dad and I are getting married next Wednesday. You're welcome to be our flower boy. I had once felt pity for her because of her background, but now, she showed her true face. Fine, break up. Whatever. Who cares about being with you? She walked away, leaving me standing there. I planned to tell my mom about their wedding when I got home. Just as I reached the door, I overheard her shouting angrily. Mr. Wang, I really don't understand your actions today. You voting for Jug Wacharn means you're kicking me off the platform, right? I've treated you well over the years. I could guess what was going on. I turned and entered the room, and soon, my mom followed me in. Ju Shacharn, that old fox, secretly acquired 51% of the company's shares behind my back. Today, when I went to work, some of the board members actually proposed an emergency meeting to elect a new chairman. Son, I never thought I'd face such a change in my old age. I really was blind when I asked him to join the company. Now, I regret it 1,000 times. That company was your grandfather's legacy, and I let it slip through my hands. If I die, I'll never be at peace. I watched my mom beating her chest in frustration and hesitated about whether I should tell her the news. After thinking it over, I decided to speak. Mom, I have some news. Today I ran into Sheru at the mall, and she said she and Dad are getting married next Wednesday. What? So soon? They are getting married before they've even divorced. Your dad, that bastard, always chasing after women, cheating non-stop, he's such a scumbag. A shocking thought suddenly flashed through my mind. Wait, Mom, did you just say Dad's been cheating constantly? This isn't the first time your dad's cheated. A few years ago, there was another affair, and I had to pay to settle it. He knelt down crying and promised it would never happen again. I was soft-hearted and forgave him. A dog can't change its ways. Now that I think about it, all these years, I had no idea how many times he secretly cheated on me. I handed Mom a tissue to wipe her tears. So how did you know to catch him at the Lakeview Hotel? I got a text message telling me to go. At first, I was skeptical, but it turned out to be true. Mom, can I see the text message? I called the number, but it was off. I had a feeling this was all part of a big conspiracy, and I broke out into a cold sweat. Mom, does Dad have an old phone? My mom rummaged through the drawer for a while before finally finding Dad's old phone. She knew his password and logged in instantly. Scrolling through the messages, most of them were normal, business-related. I scrolled down and found one message from an unlisted number, and the message just said, "Okay." That was the only message from this number. I suspected the previous messages had been deleted. I took the phone to a repair shop to see if they could recover the data. The technician fiddled with it for a while and nonchalantly said, "Come back around noon to pick it up." When I got home, my mom immediately asked, "Son, what's going on? Why do you suddenly need Dad's old phone?" Since my guess hadn't been confirmed yet, I didn't dare tell her directly. Mom, how long has Dad been using this phone? Maybe 4 or 5 years. He only got a new phone 3 years ago. I fell silent. By noon, I went back to get the phone. The technician had managed to recover the text messages between Dad and the unknown number. Sure enough, their messages dated back to 2018. I scrolled through the messages, and the content made my scalp tingle. 7:30 p.m., Lakeview Hotel, room 1306, waiting for you, baby. 4 p.m., Jinshan Hotel, room 502. 3:30 p.m., Motel 6, room 305. 9 p.m., come to their house, address XXX. Same place, 11 p.m. These were all messages arranging hookups with the same person. But who was this number? I compared it with Sheru's current phone number, and it wasn't the same. But something felt familiar about it. Then it hit me, Sheru had another phone number. We often played games together, and she used to worry about being bad at them, so I suggested she use a secondary account. She created a second account for the game. I immediately contacted a friend at my gaming company to check the registration details of that account. Sure enough, it was her. I froze in place. I recalled several times when, after we started dating, I couldn't find her at all. Once, I prepared a surprise for her birthday and went looking for her. I called her repeatedly, but she didn't answer. She didn't reply to my messages either. After several hours, she finally responded, saying she was reading. But I had searched the library and every study room, and I hadn't seen her. Her roommates told me that she had said she had plans to go out that day. Thinking back, she was probably with my dad. I also remembered another time when I asked Dad to walk the dog before he left. He was in a hurry, reluctantly walked the dog for 5 minutes, and when he returned, the dog was limping. He said the dog had been hurt by another dog during the walk. I didn't think much of it at the time. But now, I wondered if it was possible that Dad had been in a rush to meet someone for hookup and accidentally hurt the dog. It all started to connect. That meant that while I was dating Sheru, she had already been my dad's lover. She had been with me for another agenda. But why me? She could have easily found some other guy, someone who wouldn't raise any suspicions. What was the reason behind all of this? Before I could make sense of everything, my dad did something else. My mom said Dad had been pushing the company's IPO plan. He promised each employee huge bonuses once the company went public. Brokers, lawyers, and other personnel were flooding in. However, because the company had invested too much into the IPO, its normal operating funds were strained. My mom, unable to bear the thought of the company collapsing, went to talk to my dad. Ju Shichang, now that you own 51% of the company's shares, can you at least steer the company back in the right direction? I'm the major shareholder now. How the company develops is up to me. Shichang. Please, for the sake of the company, manage it properly. My dad just slammed the door and walked away. My mom's phone kept receiving notifications for large transactions. They were all from luxury brand stores. Since Dad's bank card was linked to her phone number, she could see every purchase record. That morning, Dad sent a document to our home. My mom opened it, and it was the divorce agreement. It stated that the family's assets should be divided equally. Oh, forget the division. My mom was about to tear up the agreement when I quickly stopped her. Mom, do you want to get back at these two? Yes. My mom kept stalling and refused to sign the papers. As the wedding day approached, my mom still refused to sign the divorce papers, meaning the divorce wouldn't go through. My dad began to panic and get angry. Zhang Shuqin, can't you just be straightforward? Stop clinging to me. When my mom remained unmoved, my dad started playing the emotional card. Shuqin, we've been together for so many years, can't we part on good terms? For several days, my dad bombarded my mom with calls and texts. But she remained unaffected. Unable to make any headway through soft or hard tactics, my dad resorted to threats. Zhang Shuqin, if you don't sign this divorce agreement, I'll expose your dirty little secrets. What? Don't think I don't know what you've done in the past. With that, he left in a huff, leaving my mom and me dumbfounded. That afternoon, just as I was about to go out with my mom, we ran into Sheru. Sister Shuqin, please, I beg you, let me and Shichang be together. I almost passed out. Shichang? That's what you used to call him, your uncle. My mom froze for a moment, then quickly snapped back to reality. Get lost, if you want a divorce, talk to Ju Shichang. Please, I'm already pregnant with Shichang's child. Please, let him go to me. Her crying and shouting drew attention from people in the neighborhood. I couldn't hold my head up. The mistress is here to storm the gates. I said. My mom, furious, yelled, stop acting crazy here, get out. The crowd started murmuring. Wow, didn't he expect her to be the mistress? I thought she was their wife. Did you hear that? She's marrying her husband, but the guy's old enough to be her father. Look at how bold the mistress is, coming right to their doorstep. Sheru fell silent and sat down on the ground, no longer causing a scene. I tried to drag my mom away, but suddenly, we heard my dad's voice. Sheru. He called, running over. Sheru began to sob uncontrollably. Sister Shuqin, I love Shichang with all my heart. I'm not after his money, please let us be together. She knelt on the ground, grabbing my mom's skirt, and my mom disdainfully pushed her off. To our surprise, Sheru suddenly rolled away. Sheru. Are you all right? Shichang, my stomach hurts so much. Our baby. My dad stood there, fuming, looking at my mom. Zhang Shuqin, if you hate me, take it out on me, but Sheru is carrying my child. The baby is innocent. You heartless woman, I hope you rot in hell. After my dad went to the hospital with Sheru, my mom pretended to call him and said she was willing to compromise, but insisted on discussing things at home. My dad immediately returned home, eager to hear the terms. All right, what are your conditions? You want a divorce, fine. But dividing the assets equally doesn't seem right. Do you want to reconsider? How about you take 60%, and I'll take 40%? No, I mean you leave with nothing. Oh, and while you're at it, Pay back the money you spent during your affair, all those luxury store purchases, I've got the records. Oh, and don't forget the villa you bought for her. My dad turned pale. What? You? The villa money was his personal savings over the years. Wonder how I know about the villa. Don't worry about it, I just know. My lawyer worked out the numbers. You need to pay me 8 million. The rest, I don't need. You bitch. My dad slapped my mom hard. Don't want to do it. Fine, we'll drag this out. Who knows how long that little bitch can carry the baby. You should know, if you don't divorce, remarrying will be bigamy. While my dad was out, I went to the hospital. I asked the nurse for Sheru's room number. When I opened the door, Sheru's face was filled with surprise. What are you doing here? I need to confirm something with you. I paused. Before we got together, were you my dad's mistress? Sheru's face drained of color. You? Did you know all along? Why did you do it? I asked. Seeing that I knew the truth, she stopped hiding it. My family was poor. Being kept was the quickest way to make money. Your dad gave me money. I could go to school, buy the bags I liked. Selling my body wasn't a big deal. I stared at her in shock. Don't look at me like that with your moral high ground. Go live without money for a while and see how you feel. Once I marry your dad, all of this will be mine. What about the hotel texts? Did you send those too? Yes. Why? I've been with your dad for so long, and he never gave me a title. How many years does a woman have in her prime? I didn't want to wait anymore. I figured I'd expose it. After all, your dad has hated your mom for a long time. This might speed up their divorce. What? My dad had hated my mom for so long? Had something happened between them that I didn't know about? Since you were with my dad, why did you come after me? Her eyes flashed. This was your dad's plan. No way. My dad would never do that to me. Oh, you don't know yet, do you? You're not actually your dad's biological son. My mind exploded. A thunderclap rang in my head. I stumbled back home, my mind racing. I finally understood the most confusing part of this entire conspiracy. My dad had kept Sheru and made her my girlfriend to get back at my mom and me. But I wasn't his biological son. For the first time in my life, I doubted my identity. After a night of thinking, my dad called my mom. He agreed to sign the divorce papers, but insisted on keeping the chairman position. His reason was that the company was about to go public, and any personnel changes could hurt its development. My mom had hoped to negotiate, but I convinced her to let it go. Dad, oh Dad. I used to think of you as my most respected figure. But now, you've turned me into the laughingstock of our circle. Well, don't blame me. The company finally went public. Everyone in the company was celebrating. My dad was the most excited of them all. Not long after, he transferred the money into my mom's account. My mom signed the papers without hesitation. I privately asked my mom, where did dad get all that money? Didn't he use his savings to buy that villa? She replied, I don't know. Let us not dwell on it. It's been such a stressful time. How about we go on a vacation, just the two of us? She agreed. A vacation sounds good. I quickly contacted a travel agency and arranged the trip. On the day we were leaving for our trip, my dad and Sheru held a grand wedding ceremony as planned. I didn't care, the money had already been transferred. My mom and I had a happy few months, enjoying our vacation, and when we got back home, I received a call from my aunt. Shuqin, why didn't you tell me about such a big thing? My mom shook her head. Big sis, your health isn't good. What's the point of telling you? It would just make you worry. I saw Ju Shichan's wedding photos on WeChat the other day. Sigh. That mistress is pregnant, and Ju Shichan is licking her boots like a dog. My mom wasn't unaware of this. We had Sheru's WeChat. She was constantly flaunting her big diamond ring, her villa, and all the gifts in her posts. Almost every day, she updates her pregnancy routine. I'm puzzled, where does my dad get all the money to spend so lavishly? My aunt wiped away her tears and continued, your brother-in-law works at our company, but his salary has been stopped for months. If this keeps up, the company is done for. My mom closed her eyes. Sister, I need your help with something. What is it? Your brother-in-law should still be the financial director, right? Could you keep an eye on the company's financial situation for me? That's easy, we're family, your brother-in-law will agree. My mom went back to work. She owns 30% of the company's shares, and while she's not the chairman, she's still a director. She couldn't just watch the company collapse. She wanted to use her position to get me a job at the company. But my dad refused stubbornly. Don't think I don't know what you're trying to do by getting Xiao Hao to work with you. I know your plans. But is your son? Zhang Shuqin, is he really my son? I've known for a long time that he is not my son. He's the bastard child you had with your old lover. Every time I see him, I think about that, and it's like I've got shit in my mouth. You want that bastard to work under me? Dream on. My mom collapsed onto the floor. Are you sick? Xiao Hao is your son. Lin Xiaoru came to the company almost every day, flaunting her role as the chairman's wife, happily showing off her pregnancy. My mom said they often locked themselves in the office together. The sounds that came from the office were unbearable. When my mom returned to work, she went to knock on her office door. Long time no see, Shuqin. My mom didn't even look up. You must be really mad. Calm down. I live in a big house now, and I should help those in need. I've talked to the union, so if you ever have difficulties, just tell them. They'll help you. Get out. This is my husband's company. Why should I leave? She leaned closer to my mom's face. Both the men in your life are at my feet. How can you not be heartbroken? You must have seen my posts, right? Shichang says I'm pregnant, and he is sending this and that. I told him no, but he insisted, she sneered. Shuqin, did you have this kind of treatment back then? My mom sneered. Oh? It seems Shichang didn't tell you about him being stripped of everything. Xiaoru's face changed. What? Stripped of everything? My mom pulled out the divorce agreement and slapped it in her face. Can you read? Xiaoru carefully read the divorce agreement in disbelief. She rushed to Shichang's office. He was talking business with General Manager Wang and asked her to wait. She couldn't wait and immediately confronted him with the divorce agreement. Explain to me what stripped of everything means. My dad's face immediately changed. Xiaoru, that was just a temporary measure. I was in a hurry to. So you lied to me. No, I'm still making money for you at the company. The money you make at the company is nothing compared to the assets. You lied to me, I'm going to kill you. She immediately grabbed him and started hitting him. My mom snorted from the side. Wasn't it true love? Not after money. Xiaoru glared at my mom. Bitch, give me back my money. She raised her hand to slap my mom, but I intervened just in time. The scene was chaotic. The company's employees and suppliers witnessed the whole drama. Now, because of what Xiaoru did, the deal was ruined. The company was in dire need of this deal with General Manager Wang, and without it, the company might collapse. Xiaoru kept throwing tantrums. My dad, furious, slapped her. She fell to the ground. My stomach hurts, she screamed. There's bleeding. My dad hurriedly dialed 120, and the ambulance arrived soon after. Xiaoru gave birth to a daughter shortly after being rushed to the hospital. My dad, who had a preference for sons, wasn't happy after the commotion at the company. He only glanced at the baby, booked a VIP room for her, and left. He had more urgent matters to attend to. The most important being securing the business deal. My dad went to find General Manager Wang, but Wang refused to cooperate, citing the internal turmoil at our company. My dad pleaded for a long time with no result. The company hadn't paid salaries for several months, and if they didn't pay soon, the employees would revolt. Plus, many suppliers were already demanding payment. The current financial reports couldn't even secure a loan from the bank. My mom and General Manager Wang had some connections. My dad decided to ask my mom for help. Shuqin, can you talk to him? You don't want the company to go under, do you? My mom finally agreed. Wang softened and agreed to cooperate, but he requested a change in the chairman position. During the board meeting, my dad immediately opposed. No. I absolutely disagree. Even the director who had previously turned against him suggested, Chairman, I think we should go along with this. The company's survival depends on it. Several directors also proposed my mom as chairman. Seeing my dad's face, my mom pretended to agree. How about this? You take a few months off, and I'll step in as chairman. After things settle down, you can come back. My dad, seeing the way out, reluctantly agreed. After all, it was him who ruined the business deal in the first place. He wanted to defend himself, but he couldn't. My dad went home. Cheru didn't know this news and was still angry from being deceived. She stayed in the VIP room for a week, and my dad never showed up. Today, the nurse notified her to settle the hospital bill. She called my dad, but he didn't answer. Reluctantly, she paid herself. When she got home, she caused a scene until my dad bought her gifts, calming her down for a while. Now that she knew he had been stripped of everything, Cheru was obsessed with controlling the family wealth. She wanted all the money to herself. She continued to plunder my dad's finances. His salary was nothing compared to what she demanded. Soon, the two of them fought over money. Since there was no hired caregiver at home, Cheru had to take care of the baby herself. Taking care of a child was exhausting, and she no longer had time for grooming, turning into a yellow-faced woman. My dad asked my uncle out for a drink and complained about his unhappiness. My dad started to quarrel with her frequently. You wish. My whole life is in your hands, don't even think about getting rid of me. When my uncle told us about my dad's situation, we were all silent. My mom sighed, alas, Jusha-chan is a dog that can't change its eating habits, do you believe it? Of course I believed it. A few days later, my mom and I drove out to the mall and met my dad with a woman out for dinner. The girl was only in her early 20s and was so tender that you could pinch water out of her. She held my dad's hand affectionately and kissed him at every turn. After the two had dinner, they went to their hotel. I took a picture of this scene, sent it to Lin Cheru's mobile phone, and told her the location. My mom and I were in the car and saw Lin Cheru rushing into their hotel aggressively. I could already imagine what was happening inside. After a while, the woman was caught downstairs by her with her bag. Look at this bitch, seducing a married man. The girl was only wearing a bathrobe, and had to hold on with one hand to keep from falling off, and she didn't dare to struggle with all her strength. A lot of people gathered on the street to watch. To be honest, I couldn't recognize Cheru anymore. It was probably because she was too tired to take care of the children and run the family, and she seemed to have aged by a dozen years. Bitch, you rely on your beauty to stick to my husband, I will beat you to death today. There was a fight. In the end, I don't know who called the police, and the police invited them into the police station. My dad didn't come down from beginning to end. History is always surprisingly similar. My mother and I used to catch an adulterer in this way, but now it's her turn. 25 My dad was soon invited to the police station by the police. I just cheated, what's the big deal, police comrade? Is cheating against the law? My dad still looked rampant at this time. Cheating is not illegal, but it is illegal if you use the funds of a listed company in violation of regulations. My dad opened his mouth in surprise. Yes, I reported my father under my real name for illegally misappropriating the financing funds for personal consumption. Since my father left the house with nothing, it is impossible for him to have so much money to spend on Lin Cheru. That villa is all his private money. My uncle handed me the company's financial information collected during this period. My goodness, every large amount of funds has flowed into his personal account after changing hands several times. No wonder he took out 8 million at once. No wonder he can continue to buy expensive gifts for Lin Cheru. The police also asked me and my mother to go to the police station. My father was very excited to see me, and rushed over to hit me, but was held down by several policemen. You bastard! You reported me. Yes. I'm going to kill you, you bastard. I looked at my father in front of me and whispered, Dad, do you remember when we went out to play at the beach together when we were little? You carried me on your shoulders and ran with me. When I failed the exam when I was little, you always covered up for me to Mom. The model of the spaceship we built together, I still have it now. I don't believe you don't love me at all. My father stopped struggling at this moment, and a trace of warmth appeared on his face. But you reported me. My father's face became ferocious again. Yes. It was you who set me up first. My mother was stunned. What design? What's going on? Mom, Cheru has been Dad's mistress for a long time. Dad asked her to attract my attention and become my girlfriend. What? But why? Because, I lowered my head, Dad thinks I'm not his biological child. Shichan, you're confused. Xiaohao is your biological child. Now that things have come to this, are you still lying to me? When I was about to marry you, your old lover told me that you were pregnant. What? He said that to prevent you from marrying me. My mother wiped her tears. I was in love with him for a while, and my dad wanted him to marry into my family, but he refused. I also pleaded with my dad, but my dad was determined. So we broke up. I was sad for a long time, and then the matchmaker introduced you. He still had feelings for me at that time and didn't want me to marry you, so he made up the rumor. I don't believe it. I threw 2 paternity test reports in my dad's face. One is between me and my dad, and the other is between Sheru's daughter and my dad. My dad opened one of the copies and determined that the blood relationship between him and me is 99.99%. My dad was stunned for a moment. What? It turns out that Xiaohao is my biological son. He quickly opened the other copy. It turns out Sheru is not pregnant with my child. Dad, Sheru was hooking up with a rich second-generation guy when she was with me. She is your mistress and the mistress of that rich second-generation guy. I checked the newborn records of the hospital where she gave birth, and compared them with yours, and I found out that the child is not yours at all. Oh my God, what did I do? I actually asked my mistress to hurt my biological son. My dad cried bitterly. The foundation that supported his revenge was completely shaken. I have lived in vain for the past few decades. My dad cried sadly. Seeing this, my mother said, "So you have always had this knot in your heart, why didn't you tell me? If you had told me earlier, I would have explained it to you. It's too late for all this. Shuqin, I kept cheating just to get revenge on you. I obeyed Lin Sheru in everything in order to have a biological son of my own. At that time, I was left with nothing and had little money on me. That's why I thought of embezzling the company's funds. I'm sorry, Shuqin, I'm not a good husband. I hurt you and the company. I'm sorry, Xiaohao, Dad was confused and did something that hurt you." After saying that, my dad looked at the police. "Comrade police, I surrender myself and I will confess everything." My dad confessed everything truthfully. 26 My dad's case was tried by the court 3 months later. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Not long after my dad went to prison, Lin Sheru took the child to find the child's biological father. The other party did not admit that the child was his at all. Lin Sheru went to his house again. As a result, he was beaten out by his original wife. She was afraid of living a poor life like before, so she went back to her old job. But she was no longer young. It would be difficult to find another sponsor to support her. She could only work as a hostess in nightclubs. 27 After my father was imprisoned, he received an agreement to transfer equity. The agreement stipulated that his 51% equity would be transferred to my mother. It was like returning the property to its original owner. Due to my father's previous illegal misappropriation of funds, the company was in a state of liquidity and many projects could not be carried out. My mother took out her own funds to help the company through the difficulties. She has recently become obsessed with the cosmetics industry and plans to enter this industry. Overtime is a common thing. I asked my mother if she would get back together with my father. She said no, it is much more reliable to focus on making money than on men. Under my mother's leadership, the company's performance is booming. I also experienced the taste of being a rich second generation. 28 Sheru heard about my sudden wealth from somewhere. She asked to get back together with me. She knelt in front of me, crying. She said she was wrong and should not have trampled on my goodness. She shouldn't have been used as a tool by my father to hurt me. I gave her some money and told her to live a good life. I don't hate her for cheating on me. After all, she got what she deserved. I got married later on. When I told my wife about this bizarre incident, she always patted my shoulder gently. Everything is over now. End.